So, about 3 weeks ago, I started a journey of making the most complex 3D animation and modeling app for Android devices, spending around 3 hours a day and 7 days a week on this project. And for those of you who didn't see the previous video, the engine I'm using for this is Unity, which is the app that's gonna help me make the next greatest Blender ripoff, with only 2% functionality compared to Blender. And I think it's fair to say in our first week we actually made a lot of progress, and I said if that video got 2 likes we'll go for another week. So the first thing I decided to do on the second week was to test my app on another Android device. And at first everything was looking perfectly fine until the app actually opened and nothing was working. So I decided to go back to the codes to try and find the error, and after fixing everything I thought was the problem, it didn't still work. So I just took it as a sign that maybe I just needed a break, and when I get back to work I'll figure it out. Well, the break ended up taking 1 week, but at least I finally figured out what was wrong with the app, which was due to my poor coding skills, as the app was trying to load a saved file that didn't exist, which was why it just froze on the main screen. But that was not all the problem, because the gizmos didn't seem to be working, and that was because the gizmos I used in the previous video were actually downloaded and they weren't compatible with mobile for some reason. So I decided to make my own, and I knew from the start this wasn't gonna be easy. And then I added the model to my scene, even though it doesn't actually do anything, but at least it's there. And many lines of code later, I finally got it to move. Believe it or not, the most basic features are actually the hardest to make, because if you think of gizmos, the first thing that comes to mind is this little stick that when you touch it, it records the position, and when you move it, it records the length. Assuming we already have a way to do this, we record that length and add it to the original object on the gizmo. This is actually very easy when we are locking the object to one preset axis, but the moment we add in rotation of any kind, we actually mess up the entire system and everything becomes 10 times harder. Now imagine trying to implement a similar system for scale or even rotation. Well, eventually I found a way around it, but it had a lot of errors as it seemed to keep flipping the object. But at least the position gizmos were working perfectly, and the scale was also working, but it sometimes glitched out from time to time. At this point I was getting a little tired, so I just stopped to play with the render engine a little bit, and then I was ready to finally finish the gizmo. So I finished the gizmo and it was working with some extra functionality. And yes, those gizmos actually took 5 days to get right. And now that that is finally out of the way, we can finally return back to more pressing issue, which was me trying to implement textures. It worked, but I was just trying to get the lights to have like this flare, but it didn't seem to work the way I wanted. So I just kept that on hold and moved on to other parts like subsurface scattering and other rendering related stuff. And one of the main things I actually liked about this render engine was how easy it was to customize the output, which gives us a wide range of rendering variations. And in the meantime, I actually did get the undo and redo buttons to work and added some more stuff in the bottom right, like the ability to check the transform values of the object and also change them using text. And after wasting the second week and the first 3 days of the third week trying to get something to work, week 3 was finally complete. I was really hoping that I'll be able to add some modeling tools, maybe reflections and materials, stuff like that in this video, but I guess we ran out of time. So if this video gets like 5 likes, maybe we'll go for another week.